Hello and welcome to your virtual open day here at Southampton. My name is Richard Cartwright. I'm a Principal Teaching Fellow here in the Department for Accounting. I specialise in audit and financial accounting, and I'm here to guide you through our programme talk. During this programme talk, I'm going to answer a few questions, some of which you might already know the answer to. But first, the first thing is, what is accounting? For some of you, you may be really familiar. You might have parents who are accountants, or you may have had a lifelong interest in accounting. For others, you may just be looking for a topic that's related to business. You may be quite mathsy. There are a number of reasons why you should study accounting, but this is a definition. It's provided by the American Accounting Association, and they explain accounting as being the process of identifying, measuring, and communicating economic information to perform informed judgments, basically to help people make evidence-based decisions. That's quite a complex definition, so I like to simplify it and just say that accounting is the language of business. It's how businesses connect with one another. It's how you appraise whether or not something was good, bad, or ugly. It's how different departments speak to one another. They use budgets, forecasts, and things like that. They use financial information to help communicate and ultimately help businesses make decisions that aren't just gut-based. I think accountants also have a broader role though too, and I want to take you back to the logo of my professional body. She's called Economia. She is someone who's identified and is pictured with three devices. She's pictured with a rod, a pair of dividers, and also a rudder. But what do each of those mean, and why do they relate to accounting? Well, if we take the rudder, first of all, that is there to demonstrate guidance, and the idea that accountants are there to provide advice and guidance to businesses to help them steer themselves through good times and bad. The rod is there in terms of illustrating the accountant's responsibilities in respect to command, and the fact that accountants aren't there just to be trampled over. Their advice is to be heeded, and they're there to provide stewardship and authority over what is signified by the final device, which is the dividers. And this is the concept of measurement. And accountants are there to measure things. And now we're typically used to thinking about accountants measuring things in financial terms, and that's true. But they also have to measure things that are non-financial. The impact of an oil spill on the environment, the impact of CO2 emissions on climate change, and they have to quantify those and measure those, and yes, at the moment translate them into financial terms. But it's not just about pounds and pence. It's not just about the cost of a Mars bar or the cost of an iPhone. There are really subjective things that accountants are there to measure. So those mixtures of responsibilities, I think, are things that accountants have been involved in for the last few millennia, the last 150 years since accountants have become a profession, and will be going to using those skills going forward to address some really significant issues. Now, what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about sort of the four, not necessarily global challenges, because Brexit is one that's quite related to UK specifically, but certainly the four significant challenges facing the UK at the moment. Let's take COVID-19 to begin with. Accountants have been fundamental in addressing the issues brought about by the spread of the virus. Okay, we're not virologists, we're not epidemiologists, but accountants have been there to try and help support businesses, to help them survive and in some cases thrive through this recent pandemic. Accountants will also be informing government policies in terms of operating the furlough scheme, the issuance of loans to businesses, and certainly accountants in practice have been instrumental in providing advice to businesses as to how they access this government support. So the management of cash flow, the management of assets over this period of time of the pandemic is something that accountants have been supporting businesses with. Next up, facing the UK and certainly Europe, is Brexit. And accountants have a fundamental role here too. For a long period of time, our major trading partner, we've not had any tariffs or customs relations with. Basically, we've been able to trade freely with our European neighbours, and 50% of our trade is with our European neighbours, and it's been seamless. All of a sudden, accountants are having to learn new skills, they're having to learn about tariffs and customs, things that exist with the UK's relationships with countries outside of Europe, but not those within. And that's a new skill set that accountants are having to learn, or relearn, should I say. And it's something that's helping businesses understand how profitable their sales will be to Europe. And certainly if a no-deal scenario occurs and we move on to WTO trading lines, then accountants are going to have to familiarize themselves with this really quickly. And accountants in practice, again, are going to be providing advice into to businesses that are operating, small and medium-sized businesses that are operating, to help them continue operating as we leave the European Union, or more to the point, we move out of the transition arrangement that we're in. Accountants are also embracing technology too, and accountants are going to be fundamental in supporting businesses transfer through the fourth industrial revolution, as it's called. And increasingly we're seeing use of advanced data analytics and use of artificial intelligence within professional accounting circles. And that raises a whole variety of new questions over ethics. Ethics is something that's been at the core of the accounting profession over the last 150 years. All of a sudden, you may have computer systems undertaking accounting procedures and making potentially decisions on humans' behalf. And how we address that and embrace that as a profession is going to be a question that we need to tackle going forward. Likewise, we're looking at the UN Global Goals for Sustainable Development, and one of the most important ones being addressing climate change. And accountants here have a role in saving the world. In fact, Prince Charles said that accountants are going to be the profession that helps save the world, because we need to get to grips with measurement of a whole variety of new factors, new non-financial factors. And accountants are going to have a role in quantifying these, measuring the financial impact of climate change. So ultimately, I think accountants have a fantastic role in addressing all of these major challenges that are affecting the UK and the global economy. So I think accounting and finance is a fantastic thing to study, especially because we're not looking purely at accounting. You're keeping your options open and your options broad. So that's why I think you should study accounting. Hopefully that's got you a little bit fired up and gives you a good feel for the subject. But the next question is, why should you study accounting and finance at the University of Southampton? Well, the principal reason why I think you should study accounting and finance at the University of Southampton is the diversity of our students and staff. We've got staff from all parts of the world, so great international experience. And you'll also be studying alongside students from all four corners of the globe. And I think this diversity in staff and student experience is one of the things that sets accounting and finance at the University of Southampton apart. Not only do we have diversity of experience in terms of our geographical origins, but we also have a diversity of experience in the type of industry background that we have. So we have a number of members of staff like myself who have trained as professional accountants, myself with KPMG, one of the big four. I worked in their audit practice for 5.5 years before moving into academia. But we also have academics who've worked in industry, and indeed academics who have spent their years researching and are at the forefront of world-class research in sustainable accounting, corporate governance, and accounting and finance in emerging economies. So a real blend of academics that you'll have here at Southampton. We also pride ourselves predominantly in teaching all of our students ourselves. Occasionally we use PhD students, but they're not the focus of our teaching staff. And the vast majority of our staff have also been accredited with the Higher Education Academy as either a fellow or senior fellow status. So there's a really strong commitment to education at the university, as well as a good amount of world-class research that we hope informs our teaching. There are also a number of other innovations that we have within our accounting and finance syllabus too. We have an early opportunity for you to study audit and tax within our syllabus, which means you are freed up to choose as many option modules as you possibly can within your third year. We also use innovative teaching methods, including the ICAEW false assurance and without question films throughout your studies here, and we use a number of other simulations too. We also have a year in employment, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on, but it's a year in employment, a placement year, as you might have heard it called, that you can opt in and opt out of. Our degree at Southampton is also accredited by the major accounting bodies, and depending what you study, you may be awarded up to 10 professional exemptions. A note of caution on this, many universities have professional exemptions too. Something that I wouldn't necessarily base your decision on the course on unless you're committed to a course that's ultra highly accredited. We at Southampton like to have a blend between professionally accredited courses but also courses that aren't accredited, that are more academic in nature and give greater scope for that great question of why. So again, a decision, something that you can bear in mind, but not something that I think is probably the be-all and end-all of your decision. And we're certainly finding that a number of professional accounting practices now are encouraging students that have professional accreditation or credit for prior learning to go out to college with their peer group, and some companies are not accepting professional accreditation or credit for prior learning at all. Another great reason to study at Southampton, I think, is the alumni community that we have. One of the great pleasures that I have as an academic is taking a look at our students where they go to, writing references for them, and also welcoming them back onto campus to deliver guest lectures and take part in our Mind the Gap initiative, which is a student staff initiative that we have that offers extra and co-curricular activities that brings the students and staff together outside of the classroom to learn to learn and engage in a variety of different events, including sort of corporate lectures, business games, and things like that. A reminder that we've got our two programs. We've got our BSc Accounting and Finance 3-year program and our BSc Accounting and Finance with Placement 4-year program. If you apply for the 4-year program, you can switch the placement on and off. And likewise, if you apply for the 3-year program and you arrive and you decide you want to move to a 4-year program, you can. In terms of what you're going to cover in your degree program with us, you're going to have core and compulsory modules in financial accounting and management accounting. That's looking at the accounting information for external users and internal users throughout your 3 years here. You'll also study audit and tax in your second year, and then you'll have option modules for things like taxation, audit. In your third year, you'll have a variety of finance and banking modules throughout. So there's a vast array of different option modules that you'll have, and one of the attractions of coming to a large university like Southampton is that we have an ability for you to turn your accounting and finance degree into something that's far more business orientated if you're interested in management and marketing, or indeed if you're very accounting orientated, you can take a lot of audit and tax modules, or if you're more inclinated to focus on finance and banking, you can tailor your degree towards those modules too. So although you may have an accounting and finance degree, what you've studied could be vastly different depending on the option modules you take. One of the excellent things that we have within the business school is our own placement office. So you're engaged, if you apply for a 4-year program or indeed a 3-year program, then decide to switch to a 4-year program, you'll have a chance to work in industry, have a year in employment, and we have a dedicated placements office within the business school to help you with that. I'm conscious that a lot of students want to know whether or not you're guaranteed a placement. Unfortunately, we don't guarantee placements. In fact, that's reputationally quite difficult for us to achieve. What we will do is try and give you every fighting chance to help you. So if you register for a placement year, either before you arrive or on your arrival, then you'll be allocated a placement coordinator. They'll be there to help support you and provide you a lot of information and guide you through mock interviews, mock assessment centres, to give you every chance that you can to secure a placement. Of course, there are other opportunities for work experiences too. You can get part-time summer work. There are summer internships that are available through the major accounting practices and major businesses. But of course, voluntary work can count too. And what I'd encourage you to do is perhaps engage with your committees in any sort of student union activity or sporting activities that you've got involved in, and perhaps use your experience that you have on the degree program to volunteer to be treasurer of the society or club that you're involved in. So lots of opportunities, if you don't want to take a year in placement, for you to get that work experience that will help your CV stand out when you progress forward. What else can you do whilst you're here at Southampton? Well, you can get involved in a year abroad, and you potentially can study abroad. And we've got a number of different partner universities. I think many students maybe who have a language may want to study in Europe. Those who are slightly more nervous and don't have a good second language, there are still opportunities for you to study abroad too. A number of European universities have courses in English, and of course we've got partner universities across the world in English speaking countries. So something that I really encourage you to think about, something that I lament not doing whilst I was at university, and something I particularly enjoyed doing whilst I've been teaching at university, is taking classes at foreign universities, because you get fantastic experience, you get to learn about a different culture, and you really get to grips with a country when you've been there for a significant period of time, and you're living there as opposed to just sort of visiting somewhere on holiday. What else might you want to get involved in? Well, I've already mentioned the Students' Union. It's a huge Students' Union at Southampton, over 300 different student groups, lots of different sports clubs, lots of different performing arts too, and a decent number of business-related societies as well. So we've got a whole variety of business and entrepreneurial-related societies. Some of them are student-led and student-orientated. Others, like Mind the Gap, are partnership operations between staff and students alike. And it's something that I really recommend that you try to get involved in. One of the great things about coming to a Russell Group university like Southampton is everything else that you can do on campus whilst you're here. So what's it like to be a student? Well, I recommend you go and watch Student Union talks, and perhaps you liaise with a few students too if you'd like to. But ultimately, I think students here have a great experience. And I think this is borne out in our NSS data, our National Student Survey data too. I like to think that we have good, friendly relationships with our students. We have weekly or bi-weekly coffee mornings. We have Mind the Gap events that we're even hosting virtually still during the COVID lockdown. There's a chance for students and staff to get together outside of the classroom environment. In terms of how you'll learn, well, clearly there's been a lot of online tuition as we've dealt with COVID, but you'll also, as things return to normal, have large lectures and small classes. You have computer labs and group and individual student projects. Although accounting and finance is quite heavily examined by examinations, we like to introduce coursework wherever we can, because we appreciate there are different learning styles that different students have. In terms of how many hours you'll work, normally per module you'll have 3 hours of tuition per week, although as we move to a blended learning environment with a greater amount of online tuition, this will vary. But we expect you to top that up with between 5 to 7 hours of private study individually too. But as I said, things are changing. We may find that there are greater opportunities using technology to have one-to-ones with students. And of course, there have always been office hours, and you'll have a relationship not only with your module leaders, but also your personal academic tutor to make sure that there's as much support for you as you possibly can. My main advice to students is to make your academics earn their money. Ask as many questions as you possibly can, get as much out of the learning experience as you can, be as driven and proactive in seeking out help whenever you can, because on average, we are here to help. We are working in academia because we like working with students, and there's nothing more satisfying for me as a tutor really as unlocking a difficulty where a student's having a problem, to sit down with them one-to-one, pick through that problem with them and try and help them learn how to get that breakthrough. In terms of how you're going to be assessed, there'll be lots of opportunities for formal examinations, unfortunately, but there'll be written essays and reports, there'll be group presentations, multiple choice tests, video submissions. We like to create as diverse range of assessments as we possibly can. In terms of the enhanced student support that you might have, you'll have a personal academic tutor. We have year-linked tutors that run on the accounting and finance program, the Mind the Gap initiative, but you also have peer leaders and course reps who are there to be a student voice in supporting you too. In terms of support for your learning, university is very different to your school life, but we are here to help you transition. We're here to help you manage your own learning, and I think this is crucial in the first year. You'll be moving away from home potentially for the first time, potentially moving away from a full-time classroom-related teaching style to one where you'll have maybe somewhere between 12 to 15 hours worth of contact time a week, and that presents challenges, and we understand that. We try to keep tabs on our students the best we can, but we do ask you to try and utilize a peer leading scheme and also your personal academic tutor if you're having any difficulties, so we can try and get the university to support you in the best way we possibly can. In terms of what peer support you might have, I've already mentioned the peer leader scheme. These are effectively your buddies. They are students who've been in your position either 1 or 2 years ago. They've been there and done that. They understand where you are, and their experience is raw. I reflect on my time at university really fondly, but it's now over a decade ago, so I have somewhat rose-tinted glasses, and sometimes it's easy to forget some of the difficulties you have in terms of transition. But our peer leaders are there to support you all the way in conjunction with your personal academic tutor to try and make sure that you've got not only an experienced hand in terms of your personal academic tutor who knows how the university works, but also a student who knows how the university feels from a student perspective and will be able to help you navigate it in the best way they possibly can. In terms of facilities that we have here at Southampton, we have a Bloomberg trading suite that you'll have access to, a whole variety of online resources that are expanding at a vast rate, and of course our partnerships that we have with local accounting firms and the alumni that we bring in on a regular basis to help support our students. In terms of our admissions information, our standard offer is a AA-B, although there are contextual offers available, and we ask for a triple D or triple distinction for BTECs. I'd advise you, if you have any unusual entry requirements or you have any concerns about your academic qualifications that you might have, because they may have been impacted by COVID-19, that you speak to our undergraduate admissions teams directly. Other than that, it's just a real pleasure, and it's a real delight to have spoken to you and welcomed you to this virtual open day discussion. And you can also email me at r.j.cartwright@sutton.ac.uk, and I'll try to get back to you in respect to as many questions you have of what it's like to study at Southampton, what it's like to be a student at Southampton, and wherever possible, I'll be able to, if I can't answer your question directly, I'll be able to signpost you to someone who will be able to. Thank you for joining me for this online programme talk. It's been a real pleasure. I look forward to hopefully welcoming some of you onto campus either next year or the year after, and I hope to see you in my Financial Accounting 1 class soon. Thank you very much for joining this presentation.